There's a reason you can't stop thinking about her. There's a reason her attention feels like oxygen. There's a reason you check your phone hoping she texted, feel empty when she's distant, and come alive when she gives you approval. And it has almost nothing to do with her. Today, we're going to talk about why so many men are psychologically addicted to women. Not to relationships, not to love, but to the validation, the attention, the feeling of being chosen. We're going to trace this addiction back to its source, explain why modern culture makes it worse, and show you exactly what it takes to break free. This isn't comfortable content, but if you're honest with yourself, you already know something is wrong. Let in hashtag 39. Let's talk about what it actually is. We talk about addiction to substances, addiction to gambling, addiction to social media, but there's an addiction that affects millions of men that almost nobody talks about directly. Addiction to female validation. This isn't about wanting a relationship. That's normal. This isn't about finding women attractive. That's biology. This is about needing a woman's approval to feel like you exist, needing her attention to feel valuable, needing her presence to feel complete. Men with this addiction organize their entire lives around obtaining and maintaining female attention. They make decisions based on what might impress women. They feel worthless during dry spells. They become obsessive when a woman shows interest, not because she's special, but because her interest makes them feel special. The addiction manifests in obvious ways. Desperate texting, jealousy, inability to walk away from bad relationships, and subtle ones. The constant background calculation of how to be more attractive, the measuring of self-worth by romantic success, the emptiness that appears whenever female attention disappears. This isn't love. This is dependency. And until you understand where it comes from, you can't escape it. The man addicted to female validation doesn't love women. He uses them. He uses them as mirrors to see himself reflected favorably. He uses them as medicine for wounds he won't address directly. He uses them as evidence that he's worth something. And because he in hashtag 39 is using them rather than loving them, the relationships never quite work. And he can never figure out why. Almost every case of validation addiction traces back to the same place, childhood. Specifically, it traces back to what you did or didn't receive from your parents, the attention you got, the approval you earned, the love that was or wasn't conditional. Children need certain things from their parents to develop properly. They need unconditional love, the sense that they're valued simply for existing. They need conditional approval, the sense that certain behaviors earn praise and others earn correction. And they need modeling examples of how to be an adult. When these needs aren't met, children adapt. They develop strategies to get whatever version of love and attention is available. And those strategies formed in childhood persist into adulthood, even when they no longer serve the person using them. A boy who didn't receive enough attention from his mother may spend his adult life seeking that attention from every woman he meets. A boy whose father was absent may never learn what healthy masculinity looks like, leaving him confused about his role and susceptible to anyone who offers guidance. A boy who only received love when he performed may become an adult who believes his value depends entirely on what he achieves or provides. The addiction to women isn't really about women. It's about trying to fill a hole that was created before you were old enough to understand what was happening. Let's talk specifically about fathers because this is where a lot of the damage originates. A father's role in a boy's development is to model masculinity, to provide discipline and structure, to challenge the boy to grow and to eventually release him into the world as a capable man. When this process works, the boy becomes a man who has an internal sense of his own worth. He doesn't need external validation because he's been given the tools to validate himself. When the father is absent physically or emotionally, this process fails. The boy never learns what a man is supposed to be. He never receives the challenge and correction that would have built his confidence. He never gets released into manhood because no one was there to do the releasing. So he stays psychologically a boy. And boys need approval. Boys need someone to tell them they're doing okay. Boys look to external sources to know if they have value. Without a father to provide that validation and then wean him off it, the boy grows into a man who seeks that validation from whoever will provide it. Often that means women. He's not looking for a partner. He's looking for someone to tell him he's good enough because his father never did. This is why so many men are simultaneously desperate for female attention and terrible at maintaining relationships. They're not relating to women as adults relate to adults. They're relating to women as boys relate to mothers, seeking comfort, approval, and the unconditional acceptance they never got. The father wound is everywhere once you know how to see it. It's in the man who can't make a decision without asking his girlfriend. It in hashtag 39. In the man who falls apart at the first sign of female disapproval. It's in the man who measures his entire worth by his success with women. These men aren't weak by nature. They're underdeveloped by circumstance. They never got what they needed to become strong. Here's something that sounds strange until you think about it. Many men are seeking maternal love from romantic partners. They want to be soothed. They want to be comforted. They want unconditional acceptance. They want someone who will love them regardless of what they do or fail to do. They want to be held and told everything will be okay. These are things children need from mothers. They are not things grown men should need from romantic partners. But when a man never fully developed past the stage of needing maternal comfort, he brings that need into every relationship. He's not looking for an equal partner. He's looking for someone to take care of him emotionally. He wants the relationship to feel like coming home to mom. This puts women in an impossible position. They signed up for a romantic relationship with a man, and instead they find themselves mothering someone who can't regulate his own emotions, can't handle rejection, and falls apart whenever they're not actively providing comfort. The woman inevitably loses attraction because no one is attracted to their child, and the man feels abandoned, which triggers his original wound, which makes him more desperate, which pushes her further away. The cycle continues until the relationship collapses, and then he goes and finds another woman to repeat the pattern with. The tragedy is that he often blames the women. She changed. She stopped caring. She wasn't the right one. He never realizes that he was asking for something no romantic partner can provide. The unconditional maternal love that should have been given freely in childhood, not earned through performance in adulthood. This psychological neediness has created an entire industry designed to exploit it. Look at the online content ecosystem, and you'll see it split into two main categories, both of which prey on people who never properly developed: maternal content and paternal content. Maternal content offers comfort. It soothes. It validates. It tells you that you're special, that the universe has a plan for you, that good things are coming, that you deserve love exactly as you are. Think of the astrology channels, the manifestation coaches, the self-love gurus who promise that abundance is just around the corner if you believe hard enough. This content feels good. It provides the unconditional acceptance that these viewers never got enough of. But it also keeps them passive, dependent, and waiting for external forces to fix their lives. It's psychological junk food, satisfying in the moment, destructive over time. Paternal content offers discipline. It challenges. It criticizes. It tells you that you and hashtag 39 are not good enough yet, that you need to work harder, that your problems are your fault, that nobody is coming to save you. Think of the tough love coaches, the grind culture influencers, the drill sergeant personas who promise transformation through suffering. This content also exploits psychological neediness, the need for a father figure who will provide structure and correction, but without actual relationship and context. It's just harsh noise that makes people feel bad without actually guiding them to anything better. Both types of content are symptoms of a generation that was insufficiently parented and is now seeking parenting from strangers on the internet. The numbers are staggering. Millions of people consuming content that essentially functions as digital parenting. They're not learning skills or gaining useful information. They're getting the emotional regulation and guidance they should have received as children. The creator becomes a surrogate parent, and the audience becomes a collection of adult children hoping for comfort or correction. And because the internet never tells you when you've had enough, these people can consume endlessly without ever actually growing. They can feel like they're reworking on themselves while actually just being comforted or scolded by strangers in an infinite loop. There's a particular category of content that deserves special attention. The pseudo-psychology and mystical thinking that has captured millions of people: manifestation, law of attraction, angel numbers, tarot, astrology used as life guidance, energy healing, miracle money programs, twin flame ideology. These systems share something in common. They offer hope without requiring responsibility. They tell you that the universe is working on your behalf, that forces beyond your control will deliver what you want, that you just need to believe the right things and the results will follow. This is psychologically appealing for the same reason maternal content is appealing. It's comforting. It feels like being cared for. It removes the burden of having to actually do something difficult. But it's also deeply infantilizing. An adult understands that outcomes depend on actions. A child believes that wanting something hard enough should be sufficient to make it appear. Pseudoscience lets adults maintain childlike beliefs about how reality works. Men who are addicted to female validation are particularly susceptible to this kind of thinking when it comes to relationships. They want to believe that the right woman will just appear if they align their energy correctly. They want to believe that past relationships failed because of cosmic timing rather than their own behavior. They want to outsource responsibility for their romantic lives to forces they don't have to control. It's easier to believe in destiny than to admit you need to change. The pseudopsychology industry preys specifically on people who are avoiding responsibility. It packages that avoidance as spirituality. It gives scientific-sounding language to magical thinking. It tells people what they want to hear, that they're special, that the universe is conspiring in their favor, that their failures aren't really their fault, and charges them for the privilege of believing it. This isn't to say that spirituality is bad, or that all self-help is fraudulent. But there's a difference between genuine growth and comfortable delusion. Genuine growth is hard, takes time, and requires facing uncomfortable truths. Comfortable delusion feels good immediately, but keeps you exactly where you are. At the core of all this is something simple: the refusal to grow up. Growing up means accepting that no one is coming to save you. It means understanding that your problems are your responsibility regardless of who caused them. It means tolerating discomfort, delaying gratification, and doing hard things because they're necessary. Growing up means becoming your own parent. Developing an internal voice that both comforts and challenges you, that holds you accountable while also accepting your humanity. It means no longer needing external figures to provide what you can provide for yourself. Men who are addicted to female validation have refused this transition. They're still looking for someone else to make them feel okay. They're still hoping someone will come along and fill the emptiness. They're still operating as children who need attention to know they exist. This refusal isn't usually conscious. Most of these men think they want a relationship when what they actually want is rescue. They think they looking for a partner when they actually looking for a mother who will also sleep with them. Until they recognize this pattern and consciously choose to grow up, they will continue repeating it with every woman they meet. Growing up is not a one-time event. It's a process. It requires confronting the parts of yourself that want to remain a child. It means giving up the fantasy that someone will come along and make everything okay. It means accepting that the unconditional love you missed as a child is gone. You can't go back and get it. And learning to give yourself what you need. Now, here's something that gets people defensive, but needs to be said. Many men have become psychologically dependent in ways that undermine their ability to lead their own lives. They've outsourced decision. They defer to women, to experts, to anyone who seems confident. They're uncomfortable with authority, having it, or exercising it. They avoid conflict at all costs. They prioritize being liked over being respected. This isn't about gender roles or politics. It's about psychological development. A healthy adult, male or female, has a solid sense of self. They know what they want. They can make decisions and accept consequences. They don't need constant external validation to feel secure. When men lack this solidity, they become dependent on whoever is willing to provide direction. Often that's women, girlfriends, wives, mothers who end up managing their lives because the men won't manage themselves. This creates relationships where the woman has all the functional authority because the man has abdicated it. He calls it being easygoing or supportive. What it actually is: psychological dependency disguised as virtue. Healthy relationships require two complete people. When one person is incomplete and seeking completion through the other, the relationship becomes a form of parasitism rather than partnership. Women can sense this incompleteness even if they can't articulate it. They feel the weight of being someone's emotional anchor. They feel the pressure of being responsible for his well-being. They feel the subtle wrongness of being with someone who needs them too much, and eventually they pull away. Not because they're cruel, but because the dynamic is exhausting and unsustainable. Here's something men discover when they finally get the validation they've been chasing. It doesn't fix anything. The woman they wanted wants them back. The attention they craved is now abundant. The approval they needed is being given. And yet, the emptiness remains. That's because external validation can't fill internal holes. It can provide temporary relief like a drug, but it doesn't address the underlying deficiency. The wound from childhood doesn't heal because a woman tells you she loves you. The absent father doesn't get retroactively replaced by female approval. So, the man seeks more. He needs more attention, more proof that he's valued, more demonstrations of love. He becomes exhausting to be with because his need is bottomless. No amount of validation is ever enough. Or he realizes the woman isn't providing what he expected, and he starts looking for another woman who might do it better. He cycles through relationships, always chasing the feeling he got during the initial validation rush, never understanding why it always fades. The validation treadmill is exhausting and ultimately futile. But men stay on it because the only alternative is confronting why they need the validation in the first place, and that confrontation is painful. It means acknowledging that you've been running from something your whole life. It means admitting that your pursuit of women has been less about love and more about avoiding the emptiness inside. It means sitting with that emptiness instead of constantly trying to fill it with someone else. Most men would rather keep running. The treadmill hurts, but the alternative, facing the wound, hurts more, at least in the short term. So, how do you actually escape this? First, recognize the pattern. See it clearly. Acknowledge that your relationship with women has been driven by need rather than genuine connection. Admit that you've been seeking something from them that they can't actually provide. This requires brutal honesty. Most men resist it because it feels like admitting weakness, but you can't fix what you won't acknowledge. Second, trace the wound. Where did this need come from? What didn't you get as a child? What are you still trying to obtain from romantic partners that should have been given to you decades ago by parents? This is difficult work. It often requires professional help, a good therapist who understands attachment and development. But it can also be done through serious self-reflection, journaling, and honest conversation with people who know your history. Third, become your own parent. Develop the internal voices that provide what you've been seeking externally. An internal nurturing voice that accepts you without conditions. An internal challenging voice that holds you accountable. The ability to comfort yourself when things are hard and push yourself when you're being lazy. This is what psychological maturity actually means. It's not about being tough or independent. It's about having a complete internal system that doesn't depend on others for basic functioning. Fourth, build a life that's valuable regardless of romantic success, purpose, achievement, community, health, interests, skills, things that give you a sense of worth that doesn't depend on female attention. When your identity is built on solid ground, romantic rejection becomes disappointing rather than devastating. You can pursue relationships from a place of want rather than need, which paradoxically makes you far more attractive. Fifth, practice being alone without being lonely. Learn to enjoy your own company. Discover that you can be at peace without someone validating your existence. This isn't about isolation. It's about developing the capacity to be complete by yourself so that relationships become a choice rather than a necessity. The goal isn't to stop wanting relationships. It's to stop needing them to feel like a whole person. One thing that helps enormously, surrounding yourself with people who will be honest with you. Not yes men who validate everything. Not harsh critics who tear you down. People who care about your growth and will tell you the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Men who are addicted to validation often avoid these people. They prefer company that doesn't challenge them. They gravitate toward communities that confirm their existing beliefs rather than questioning them. This is how people stay stuck. They create echo chambers that protect them from the feedback they need to grow. Real growth requires friction. It requires people who will call you out. It requires relationships where you can be honest about your weaknesses and receive honest feedback about your blind spots. Find men who are doing the work. Build relationships based on mutual accountability. Be willing to hear things you don't want to hear and extend the same honesty to others. A community of growth is the opposite of a community of comfort. It's harder to be part of, but it actually produces change. Here's what you'll be tempted to do. Look for shortcuts. A technique that will make women attracted. A formula that guarantees results. A system that bypasses the internal work and just delivers the external outcome. The internet is full of people selling these shortcuts. Pickup artists, dating coaches, people who promise that the right lines, the right frame, the right approach will get you the validation you crave. Some of these techniques might even work short-term. You might get attention. You might get dates. You might get the validation hit you're chasing. but you'll still be the same person underneath. Still addicted, still needy, still unable to form genuine connections because you're too busy performing. The shortcut trap is seductive because it promises results without transformation. It lets you stay the same while getting different outcomes. But it doesn't work long-term because the problem isn't your technique. The problem is your psychology. Real change requires real work. There's no workaround. Let me paint a picture of what it looks like when a man breaks free from this addiction. He's still interested in women. He still wants a relationship. He still finds women attractive and enjoys their company. But he doesn't need it to feel okay. His baseline emotional state is stable regardless of his romantic situation. He can be rejected and be disappointed without being devastated. He can be alone and be content rather than desperate. When he enters relationships, he does so as a complete person seeking partnership with another complete person. He's not looking to be saved. He's not trying to fill a void. He's offering genuine connection between equals. This makes him dramatically more attractive. But more importantly, it makes his relationships dramatically healthier. He can give without depleting himself. He can receive without becoming dependent. He can face conflict without the fear that he'll be abandoned. He's integrated the father he needed and the mother he needed into his own psyche. He parents himself now. And that means he can finally relate to women as a man rather than as a boy still looking for approval. Now it's time for you to answer a hard question. Is what I've described your situation, not hypothetically, not as an interesting theory? Actually, do you organize your emotional life around female attention? Do you feel worthless when women aren't interested? Do you become obsessive, desperate, or clingy when someone shows interest? Do you stay in bad relationships because being alone feels unbearable? Did you have a father who was present and engaged, or were you raised without that guidance? Did you get what you needed as a child, or are you still trying to get it now? Be honest. The first step to solving any problem is acknowledging it exists. If this described you, don't feel shame. Feel hope, because understanding the problem is most of the solution. Once you see the pattern clearly, you can start doing something about it. The addiction to women isn't really about women. It's about a wound that never healed, a need that was never met, a development that was never completed. It's about boys who grew into men physically but never made the psychological transition to adulthood. It's about looking for parents in places where parents can't be found. It's about hoping external validation will fix internal emptiness. The path out isn't easy, but it's simple. Recognize the pattern. Trace the wound. Become your own parent. Build a life of genuine value. Surround yourself with people who will tell you the truth. Stop looking for someone to complete you. Complete yourself. Then, and only then, will you be capable of the kind of relationship you actually want. One between two whole people. Not two broken halves pretending they make a whole. That's the truth about why you're addicted to women. Now you get to decide what to do with it.